This is session 11 of the Sheltered Instruction Training. In this session, we'll learn and discuss the sixth component of SIOP, practice and application. We'll watch a video on practice and application and discuss various activities for practice and application.
In this session, we will discuss the component practice and application of the SIOP model. For this session, we will focus on the three features of practice and application. Those three features include number 20, hands-on materials and/or manipulatives provided for students to practice using new content knowledge in the classroom. Number 21, activities provided for students to apply content and language knowledge. And 22, activities integrate all the language skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Our content objectives for this session are to identify a variety of ways for students to enhance their learning through hands-on practice, and to investigate activities that extend learning in new ways and relate to the content and language objectives. Our language objectives are to listen for activities that demonstrate the use of hands-on materials and manipulatives, and to define the use of can-do descriptors to plan the integration of all language skills. Feature 20, hands-on materials. Students have a greater chance of mastering content concepts and skills when they are given multiple opportunities to practice in relevant and meaningful ways. So one common memory that most adults share is of learning to ride a full-size bike. Even after riding smaller bicycles with training wheels, most of us were unprepared for the balancing act required for us not to fall down when riding a regular bike. If you had a parent or older brother or sister who talked you through the process, showed you how to balance, and perhaps even held on to the bike while you were steadying yourself, your independent practice time with the big bike was probably enhanced. Talking about the experience, listening to someone else describe it, observing other riders, and then practicing for yourself all work together to turn you into a bicycle rider. That feeling of accomplishment, of mastering something new through practice and applying it to a bigger bike, is a special feeling that most of us has experienced as learners. Divide content into meaningful and short chunks. Provide a short time to practice so the student exerts an intense effort and continues to have the intent to learn. Provide multiple opportunities to practice with the hands-on materials. This helps students connect those abstract concepts with concrete experiences. Some examples might include manipulatives, cut-up stories, human timelines, posters, or realia. As previously mentioned, riding a bike is usually preceded by practicing with training wheels and working with a more experienced bike rider. Madeline Hunter suggests 4 questions when planning hands-on practice. They have to do with how much material, time, and practice is given to students, as well as monitoring and providing feedback about the task. How much material should be practiced at one time? A short, meaningful amount should be practiced at one time. Always use meaning to divide your bigger content topics into smaller, more manageable parts. How much time should a practice period be? A practice period should be a short time so that the student exerts intense effort and remains to have the intent to learn. Longer periods could lead to boredom or frustration. How often should students practice? That can depend on whether or not it is new or old learning. Students should practice for several periods of time for new learning. That's called massed practice, which means several practice periods scheduled close together. Students should practice older learning every other day or every 4 days. This is called distributed practice, which means spacing practice periods further and farther apart such as when we review previously learned material. And finally, how will students know how well they have done? By giving specific knowledge of results, for example, specific feedback. These could also be those prompts, probes, and cues to guide learning. Feature 21 has to do with activities provided for students to apply the content and language knowledge. As SIOP teachers, we need to carefully choose the activities we include in our lessons. Some activities build foundational language knowledge, support the student's progress in mastering the content and language objectives, and advance student proficiency in using English. In a class of multiple language proficiency levels, we can differentiate the activities. Think back again about the relationship between actually riding a bicycle and just watching someone else ride it. Abstract concepts need to be applied in a more personally relevant way, such as diaries, semantic maps, and journals. Discussing and doing make abstract concepts more concrete by using manipulatives, games, or graphic organizers. Opportunities for social interaction promote a language development through peer teaching or solving problems in cooperative learning groups and engaging in discussion circles. Modeling correct English can effectively instill appropriate usage by teachers and peers. And it provides an opportunity to use all of the language skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. This is Cummins' model of academic language. It consists of 4 quadrants. Quadrant A falls under cognitively undemanding or easy, with context embedded or mini clues. This can include art, music, and PE activities, following simple directions, or face-to-face discussions. Quadrant B becomes more cognitively demanding, but still includes many clues. This can include demonstrations, audio-visual assisted lessons, science experiments, and social studies projects. Quadrant C moves back to cognitively undemanding or easy, but provides few clues, so the context is reduced. This could include phone conversations, notes on a refrigerator, or written directions. Quadrant D moves back down to cognitively demanding and also with few clues. This would be the hardest concepts for students to practice: reading a textbook, explaining new abstract concepts, lecturing with few illustrations, and math concepts and applications. As you plan activities, remember that most academic tasks are in that D quadrant that Cummins talks about. As teachers with EL students in our classes, we need to be thinking how to scaffold quadrant D activities so that they fall into the quadrant B category. These activities are still cognitively demanding, but provide a meaningful context for students' learning, making abstract concepts more concrete and accessible. Feature 22 discusses activities that integrate all the language skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. They are interrelated and integrated naturally. Practice in any one area promotes development in the others. Connections between abstract and concrete concepts are best accomplished when all language processes are incorporated during practice and application. They create many opportunities for English learners to practice and use all 4 language processes. You can link oral discussions to reading selections, structure interaction with peers, guide students to use sentence starters and signal words, provide students with the chance to listen and react to peers' ideas, and ask students to write about what is being learned. As an example of how to integrate all 4 domains, we will look at the can-do descriptors for the levels of English language proficiency pre-K through 12. I was able to find a sequencing activity in each domain. For example, let's look at level 3, developing. Listening. I was able to find this sequencing activity. Categorize or sequence oral information using pictures or objects, which allows the students to listen to a story and then categorize or sequence. In speaking, they could retell the story they just heard with a peer. In reading, they can sequence pictures, events, or processes. In writing, they can describe the events, people, processes, and procedures. In today's session, we identified a variety of ways for students to enhance their learning through hands-on practice. We investigated activities that extended learning in new ways and related to the content and language objectives. We listened for activities that demonstrated the use of hands-on materials and manipulatives. And finally, we defined the use of can-do descriptors to plan the integration of all language skills. As always, thank you for listening.
Let's look at 6 activities for practice and application. Are you sleeping? This is when the students use the melody of the song Are You Sleeping and practice what they are learning by singing. Guide students to summarizing key content information into 4 to 8 phrases to fit the lyrics of the song. Bingo. Instead of calling out words, teachers will say a description, definition, or related fact, something like Jeopardy. Go graphics for expository text. After introducing various graphic organizers to the class, ask students in groups to select the organizer that best fits the structure of the test they are reading in their groups. In the loop, provide each pair of students with a piece of paper, paper cups, Fruit Loops or Cheerios, or any manipulative that can be eaten later. Give students a problem, from a simple addition problem to a cell construction in science. Piece a pizza. Teaching concepts or ideas that has many parts. Make a pizza and slice it into 8 pieces. Students will include important details of the topic on their slice of pizza, and then they'll put it together. Plot chart. After listening or reading to a short story, recreate the sequence or summarize the plot of a story using a plot chart. There are 4 rectangular boxes: somebody, wanted, but, so. This is the end of session 11. Thank you.